Hello and welcome to the rank of the good things and everything that made you sad from the previous week. And what made us sad from the previous week is we had some technical difficulties in getting last week's episode up. And by the time it was finally up and ready to roll, the games had been played and there was really no point. So I apologize about that mix up. We're going to do our best to make sure that doesn't happen. We had some fun during the holidays, releasing some episodes on New Year's Eve, on Christmas Eve for the audience, but we want to get back to our regularly scheduled date here on Monday nights. And now we're going to start off with college football. Let's just get right into it. We had the playoffs happen on a Thursday night and Friday night semifinal game. And of course, we had Miami against Ole Miss up first. And Miami, brink of death for the first time in these playoffs. Ole Miss pushed them, and it was a great game. But we've got to talk about some of the themes here. Obviously, Miami won, you know that. But Miami has not been good since I was in middle school, maybe high school, middle school, high school, somewhere around there. Ken Dorsey was their quarterback, and obviously in the 90s and late 80s, I grew up with that Miami Hurricanes team. And, you got to watch ESPN's 30 for 30, convicts versus Catholics versus convicts, all that stuff. And being around that and the amount of athletes that those Miami teams were able to put into the NFL. The primary team that you obviously remember is that Ed Reed team where you had like Jonathan Vilma and everybody on that line. Like that team was the team we recognize as one of the best teams ever in college football history. Andre Johnson at wide receiver, 3 different running backs in Willis McGahee, Gore, Clinton Portis. The team was insane. The team was absolutely batshit crazy. And to see them make it back it's not really exciting on the outsides except for maybe Malachi Toney. Running back is a grinder like a Frank Gore type. But Carson Beck's kind of Ken Dorsey-ish with more talent than Ken Dorsey had. But to see this team return to prominence is pretty crazy based on where they came from. The most notable quarterback recently was Ja'Cory Harris was really good for like 3 games. We had like 3 games with him. Brad Kaya was pretty good, but everyone else was absolutely forgettable. And finally, this team is where it should be, and I wonder if we're rooting for them, because I am. I like Miami. I like that storyline. I think college football is better when the U, that beautiful helmet, is at the top of college football, or at least near the top. They are one of those teams that, because of what Jimmy Johnson was able to do, you kind of root for, you kind of look for to finish there. And it hasn't been that since they've been in the ACC. They just haven't been that team. Mark Richt had a little bit of a run, but still was unable to achieve that prominence as they got just destroyed by a Pitt. Now, when it comes to Ole Miss, the storylines are absolutely crazy there as well. If you look at Ole Miss and what Ole Miss was able to accomplish with everything that surrounds them as far as Lane Kiffin is concerned, that's absolutely something we need to start talking about, because talk about overcoming adversity. I'm really interested to see how many of those kids enter the transfer portal and how many of those kids end up with Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. Or, like if this is just a facade, this, against all odds, we're going to do this against Lane Kiffin leaving us in the midst of a championship run, which they almost completed. They got within 18 seconds of completing that championship run that they were on, and they just weren't able to. Or was it all just pomp and circumstance? Do they all go and sign with Lane Kiffin over at LSU? That's what I'm interested in. Where are these Ole Miss players going to go in the era of the transfer portal, where we had like teams having their whole team leave in the transfer portal, enter the transfer portal? It's just a new era in college football that we've never seen before, and it's something that needs to be accounted for, right? Where are we at as far as college football is concerned, and where are teams like Ole Miss that lose their head coach at? Because this is incredibly interesting to see what happens. It wasn't just interesting to see how far they'd go in the playoffs. It's interesting to see what Ole Miss is going to do next, what these players are going to do next, what Ole Miss is going to do about their head coaching vacancy next. This is going to be, for me, one of the most interesting storylines we've had in the offseason in quite some time. And it is all revolving around what's going to happen next with this team, because this is very clearly the best team they have ever had. The best team they have absolutely ever had at Ole Miss. And we got to see a bunch of teams now, outside of Oregon, that are not considered blue bloods, make it very far. And it has been a blast to watch. Now, I say that knowing that Miami could be considered a blue blood in many circles, but why when they haven't been good for almost 20 years? Maybe over 20 years. They haven't been somebody to consider a mover and shaker for maybe 20 years. Is Miami a blue blood? Does this championship run solidify them as a blue blood? Well, maybe only if they can complete it against what is appearing to be an absolute juggernaut in Indiana. Now, they didn't look like this juggernaut until the playoffs, until they went in against the Bama team that never should have been in the playoff, absolutely had no business, one of the worst Bama teams we've seen in a long time, and destroyed them, absolutely dismantled Alabama, right? And Indiana hadn't done that really all season. Even against bad teams, Indiana hadn't shown that they had that in their arsenal. The absolute destruction of another football team. Curt Cignetti has his team well coached. They are a well-oiled machine, but they were a winning machine. They weren't a destroying machine like they have been in these playoffs. And when I say like they have been in these playoffs, I said Oregon could be considered a blue blood. They really haven't won anything either. Like, they're good year in and year out. They're consistently the best dressed and probably one of the most athletic teams every single year. But they never get over the hump. They can never win the big one. That has always been Oregon's thing is, look, we're going to be great. We're going to be bright. We're going to be shiny, but not all that glitters is gold. And they will never hoist the gold up into the air if they can't get over this. Now, could it be the coaching? Could it be the quarterback? Who knows? But right now, what we saw is Fernando Mendoza go out there and chuck 5 touchdowns, and Dante Moore looked like he absolutely needed better coaching. He needed to be told what to do. He stared down receivers, and he got beat on plays where wide receivers were open by a defense that was just playing smarter than he was. And also, we need to look at not just that quarterback and what's going on with the coaching that's occurring with him, but we need to look at Dan Lanning and go, is this the right guy? Like, is he another coach like a Franklin that's going to get us 10 wins every year, going to get us close every year, but can't really win the big one? Now, he beat Ohio State last year, but outside of that, does he really have a signature win? I don't think so. I don't think he does, and I think we need to accept that about Dan Lanning, that he needs to put up or shut up at this point. He talked a lot of smack going into the Colorado game about unproven entities in this league. Well, he's an unproven entity in this league. He hasn't proven anything in this league. And it's time for us to really start examining these high-paid coaches with high-power positions and say, hey, put up or shut up. You get paid enough to do something. Dan Lanning, you were able to cut your teeth on the defensive side of the ball. Meanwhile, you can't decipher what your opponent is doing defensively over in Curt Cignetti, and you haven't been able to win any games of note. Yeah, you beat a lot of bad teams, and it's time we start looking at Oregon like we were looking at Penn State. Congratulations on beating all the bad teams that you should beat. Now show me something. Oregon last year was something. Now what else can you do? Because this is the world of sales, baby, and it is what have you done for me lately? And right now, Dan Lanning has not done anything for you. Beating James Madison in the first round of the playoffs is just not going to cut it anymore. It's time for us to demand more of these coaches that are getting paid the amount they're getting paid. It is time for us to stop giving these coaches huge exit clauses because it's enough. If they can't win, they can't win. If you don't sign that big coach, good. Maybe it wasn't meant to be, but it is time for these institutions to start putting their foot down. Because there's no reason that prices should go up for everyone else because you're paying these coaches a certain amount of money that you can't afford. So, Dan Lanning, it is your time. You're being called out because, wow, did you get crushed by an Indiana squad that looks absolutely insane and tough to beat. And it's bringing us into Miami with a Cuban quarterback at the helm of Indiana's offense and at the helm of Indiana's undefeated run so far, and a Miami team existing in that market already. Miami essentially getting a home game for the championship. And we want to see what's next. This is also about the draft coming up in the NFL, right? We have Fernando Mendoza and Dante Moore, the 2 top quarterbacks, and one won out. One showed that he belongs, and the other one left a ton of questions on the table. Does that impact us in the future when we start to see how much talent Dante Moore actually has? And is it just the coaching? Or is it going to be Dante Moore's talent shows out and his ability and our ability to project forward puts him in front of Fernando Mendoza? Right now, Mendoza looks like the runaway first overall pick, but we won't know until the combine. And before that, we've got an amazing national championship game that I know that we are all excited to watch. So here we are. The NFL had their first round of playoffs. We've got one game left in the Pittsburgh Steelers and, of course, the Houston Texans. And I don't want to be wrong again and pick against Aaron Rodgers, but I've got a very strong feeling that there's no way Pittsburgh gets over or past this insane Houston Texans defense. This is the best defense in the playoffs. They're better than the Broncos defense. So I don't see a path for them. But right now, we kind of got to an idea of how this bracket's going to line up because we now get Buffalo against Denver, which you guys know my pick. I've got Buffalo going all the way. I think this is the year for Buffalo to do it. They've got to win 3 games. But I think if there's any team in these playoffs that can do it, it's them. Okay? Now, outside of that game, let's talk about that Buffalo-Jacksonville game. Josh Allen is an absolute madman. Just insane person with his ability to recover from injury. He's an absolute tank. Now, granted, he is nicked up going into this next game, but this dude is an animal. He is so insanely good at what he does at that quarterback position, at managing the game. And you saw the difference in the actual game, right? Trevor Lawrence, yeah, some balls were tipped, but the balls that were tipped were behind receivers, and that kind of is the difference in this playoff game. You see that inexperience versus the experience of Josh Allen. Josh Allen now protecting the ball and having just a great game, both running the ball, that Jacksonville defense is also very good, much like Houston, but his ability to avoid the sacks that he was able to avoid, because that defense is going to get you. They are so fast. Jacksonville's defense is so quick. It was so fun to watch that defense against a tackle like Deion Dawkins. But all that to say, Buffalo, they're going to have to do more. That defense has to step up. I really wish they had Ed Oliver in the center of this defense. Obviously, they don't. But that defense has to step up if they're going to beat Denver. They just have to, because Denver does not have an overwhelming offense. They have a good defense, and leave that to Josh Allen on the offensive side of the ball. Okay, what has to happen right now is Doug McDermott, I've been saying this all year, he has to do something about this defense and stop Bo Nix. Can you do that? Obviously, you're going up against Sean Payton, so take some pride in this, Doug. Take some pride in this game and show, defensive coordinators can do this too. It's not just about you offensive masterminds. Sometimes a defensive head coach can go in there and stop an offensive mastermind coach. And I hope that's Doug McDermott this game, because right now, this is the time for Buffalo to do. We saw one inexperienced quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, and everyone was picking Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars as like a novelty, right? They were picking them to get to the next round. And what happened? The experienced Buffalo Bills shut that down, okay? The Buffalo Bills were able to win that game, and it wasn't easy. I had that pegged as the best, most competitive game of the first round of the playoffs, and I think it lived up to that. Obviously, 49ers, Eagles was a good game too, but this Jacksonville-Buffalo game was going to be fun. It lived up to it. That fourth quarter was very exciting. So many things happened. Josh Allen, like I said, obviously hurt, making crazy throws, and now he's got Denver. And I think he's got to put the offense on his back again to go up against Denver. Lots of injuries in this game. Gabe Davis, their wide receiving core is the walking wounded. They have, I don't know who they have left. They've got their 2 tight ends, and they've got a bunch of people in splints and on crutches at wide receiver. Cook is even hurt. Even Cook is hurt right now. So this team is banged up going into the next round, but every team is hurt. Every team is hurt. Unfortunately for them, they're going up against a team that had that extra weeks of rest in Denver Broncos. I'm still going to ride with Buffalo, but it's going to be tougher. On the other side, we had Chicago win their first playoff game in quite some time, and you saw the fans living it up as the Bears were able to pull that off. But God, they had no business winning that game. What a choke job by the Green Bay Packers. That's going to be something that the players on that team never forget, because it never should have happened, and somehow it did. And the Chicago Bears were able to pull off a comeback. Caleb Williams is rounding into the quarterback that he was expected to be under Ben Johnson. They needed to get rid of their head coach, and they needed to get Ben Johnson, because Ben Johnson is bringing out the best in Caleb Williams, and it is exciting to see. And as far as that goes, as far as that relationship goes, that is a young head coach and a young quarterback that are preparing to move into the future together. And that's interesting to see where this goes, because Chicago could be a team with these two at the helm that could be good for, I don't want to go too far, but like the next 4, 5, 6 years, this could be a team that competes. That the whole division is incredible. And now they get to go up against the old guard, right? Sean McVay, who's still very young, but has won a Super Bowl, and Matthew Stafford, the wily vet who's probably going to win MVP of the NFL this year. You're going up against this squad, this tested squad in the Los Angeles Rams, and I don't see it. 2 weeks in a row is too much, man. 2 weeks in a row for something like that, for that high energy to be kept, to be able to work off of, to not live on that high from beating a rival in Green Bay for your first playoff win in over a decade. Like, it's going to take a lot to come down from that. And I think Los Angeles has the perfect opportunity to capitalize on that after being pushed by a Carolina Panthers team that honestly should have never been in the playoffs. So the Rams have some proving to do here too. The playoffs are never easy. Obviously, the game was in Charlotte, so that was never going to be a super easy test, but it's not one that should have been as hard as it was for Los Angeles and Matthew Stafford. That team is stacked at wide receiver. That team has a really solid tight end. That team has really good running backs. That team is very well coached, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So there's no reason for what happened to happen anymore or again, as far as the Rams are concerned. The Rams have an opportunity here to go into Chicago and assert dominance against this defense. So I'm hoping for a shootout. I'm hoping for a game like we got with Jared Goff versus Patrick Mahomes, that Monday night game, Kansas City and Los Angeles, where sparks flew, where the ball was being thrown all over the field, and it was nothing but exciting. That's what I'm expecting out of this playoff game. So since I'm expecting that, we're probably going to get a 6-3 game. So I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that this game is everything that I think it's going to be, with Ben Johnson facing off against Sean McVay and the Los Angeles Rams taking on the Chicago Bears. I'm not picking a winner here. You can't get me to do it. Los Angeles. Like I said, if you've been listening, I'm hinting at it. I just don't think Chicago can do it twice in a row. But Los Angeles going on the road twice is a hell of a thing too. 49ers lose George Kittle, but he hasn't really been there for most of the season. So though that's a major loss, and it makes us all sad because we love George Kittle, it's not something they're not accustomed to. Shanahan, again, like, wow, the coaches in the NFC bracket are insane. So many really solid coaches. And the 49ers now get a rematch of the last game of the season, and they get to play Seattle. And you know what? Like, are the Seahawks going to be able to do it again? It's tough to beat a team 2 times in a row, only 3 weeks apart. Like, this is going to be a tough game. Can Sam Darnold shake off what happened with Minnesota and go out there and win this game, right? The 49ers are also the walking wounded, just like Buffalo's wide receiving. So this game's going to be fun. It's going to be loud. I think the 12s are going to be insane. But no. I'm taking Seattle. I'm not doing this twice. I'm not taking San Francisco twice. But you know what? For all you San Francisco fans, that might be better for you. Because when I took the 49ers, the Seattle Seahawks won. So 49ers fans, this might be better for you, me taking Seattle. I think this team is too hurt. I think that I want the 49ers to win. I just don't see that happening. The Seattle team's been really good all year. They've been steady. They've been consistent. And they're going to do that in the playoffs. The Patriots, they did it again. Drake May, probably going to finish second in MVP voting this year, is a phenomenal quarterback. And they were able to put this together under Mike Vrabel, who is a great head coach. So many teams miss an opportunity here to sign a fantastic head coach. And what did he do? He bided his time, and he got the job he wanted in New England. He's got the quarterback he wants in Drake May, and he's put together an amazing team. With that, I think that no matter who the Patriots play, the Patriots are going to go on to the championship game. I think we're all going to have to suffer through another 10 years of this New England dominance. And you know what? It's not so bad. It's not going to be so bad. It's fun to see great teams play great football. The Patriots, it's time for us all to give in and say the Patriots put together a great team and they play great football. We are so excited to watch more football this weekend and bring you so much more. And of course, the College Football Championship. Thank you so much for joining us each and every week here on the Sad Fan. We cannot wait to see you next time.
Back to the block, I'm scamming. Back in the shop, I'm scamming. Get it off a dummy, I'm scamming.